Hello. Hey, it's Bridgerlyn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm YouTube channel. And anyway, it's cold. It's cold when you're in Reno, Nevada right now. I'm sure it's pretty cold all over. So anyway, I got my little hat and my hoodie. And so I just wanted to kind of touch base. Lately, I've been doing a lot of contemplation. I think a lot anyway, but I don't know. The last couple of months, I've been getting a lot of sleep because there has been less, post-traumatic stress events and dealing with the outside world. So I have been really focusing in on sleeping at night. And today was the first morning in 3 months that I finally got up at 6, just because, my body was ready and, just got up, felt great, super happy. So I think I'm kind of coming out of a dense period, just a exhausted period, because it's pretty much been since, 2003 is when things got really bad. But I also, I'm not even going to go there. So, just kind of putting out fires. And then finally now I'm just kind of in a place where I could put out my own fire and sleep. And I literally was sleeping 10 to 11 hours because I don't watch TV. So I try to stay away from that kind of pulsing mind control. Because you have enough mind control systems around you, so anyway, so this video is kind of about, sorry, I have a little bit of my coffee. Okay, so this video is kind of about 2019. The other thing, too, I've been thinking a lot about and contemplating is, what kind of, information could be the most helpful to people that may watch my videos, right? Because it's interesting now, there's so many people pumping out the same stuff over and over again, regurgitating somebody else's stuff, which is fine. I think it's good that, people are sharing information. I think that's a super positive. But also, I just want to kind of be in a different place. I mean, I think my channel's always kind of been in a different place. So I've really been kind of contemplating where I'm at, what I could teach or convey, and, doing the right thing, in a good way. So I've just been thinking about a lot of the lines of that. And so in this reality world, whatever you want to call it, hologram, my favorite one is assembled construct, which my friend Ryan came up with. They have these, crazy rules. Law of attraction, the law of one, manifestation. Just, I'd have to come across them to really point them out. And I do try to point them out in some of my videos. Savior, there's all the savior programming and salvation programming, and it plays across, I think, almost every type of religion, belief system. That's a running program. Excuse me. So I want to be a little bit kind of more proactive with putting out ideas. So I was thinking about this morning, I was cooking my breakfast and I was thinking about, 2019. So 2018 was 11. 2 plus 1, right, is 3 plus 8 equals 11. So master numbers, we just are, double digit numbers. Master numbers, we try to just leave, a lot with the mastery, or it could have come down to 2. Everything outside of us, everything that's not me is a 2, right? So 2018 wasn't my roughest year, but it was kind of a defining year for me personally. And I have a lot of in this reality, in numerology, right? This system doesn't go past other places. It's a program that's been installed. But let's think about it for a bit, right? Because sometimes first we have to learn how to work with those programs to level off the chaos in what's happening in our own vicinity, and then keep moving to a different place with it all. So 2019 I was thinking about today because I definitely want to think about a program or a law or numerology that governs in this world. I mean, this is the deal. If the moon was a satellite, which I totally think it is, that was pulled somehow, thrown or pulled into this in our space here, right? In this hologram or whatever, assembled construct. And that's what they did. They've assembled it. This was an assembled universe, right? It was assembled. And it could be a holographic, virtual assembling. So, with numerology and respect to numerology, so, astrology and astrophysics and all that stuff would only be supported in this reality. From this place, because there's the label here, which is the program, which is the plug-in, which is the download, which is a part of the operating system, but it wouldn't be effective out there. And I think there's a point where those things don't really work for you anymore because you may be, what was one of the quotes that Jesus was supposed to have said? Like, be in it, but don't be part of it. I mean, that explains the whole thing like perfectly. But sometimes you got to be part of it and understand these programs and work with the programs, right, to generate less chaos and less 2D seesaw, right? So you can at least get to a place kind of balance, right? Once you decide what your intention is going to be. So I was thinking about 2019, which 2 plus 1 is 3, right? Plus 9 is 12. And then we're going to break it down even more, down into a 3. So this year, communication, sharing, things of those nature are going to be active. 3 is going to activate that. So then I was thinking about how I would break it down. So this is why I'm making the video, to help you guys break it down in a simple way. So that you can just get to the meat of it. What the potential is, what you need to do. For example, if you wanted to start a new business, but you weren't ready to start that business yet, this would be the year that you would put out the marketing and the advertising, right? Because it's about the communication, right? And the sharing. So this would be a really good time to start launching, in a verbal way, in an internet kind of way, about the business, that's coming. Or also, it's a good time to start communicating with other peoples, or what I'm going to call the original AI, the original system that assembled the construct. And then there's been other architects that have, when you're an architect, you don't say, oh, wow, that's really good or that's really bad. If the design works, right? And then it's going to, even if it's bad, it's going to be good. So we have to get kind of off that seesaw. I mean, definitely there's evil, and we should watch out for evil for sure and not participate in it, but getting out of the whole, good, bad kind of a thing. So, all right, so 2019, how I would break it down. So when I think about it for myself, I think about, okay, so this is going to be a good year to communicate. And so it might be a good time to like shift some of my work or present, more things on even YouTube or whatever else. I was thinking about going back to writing a blog. But I'm not really sure, so there's a lot of things that I'm playing with in my head. So because it's going to be a good time for communication and sharing. And so how does that communication and sharing break up? And so you got a 2. So the 2 at the beginning. So the communication and sharing has to be with everything outside of me. So me, I'm singular, I'm a 1, also can be new beginnings. Once you move to the 2, you, everything that's not you, this hat is a 2. This hoodie is a 2 because, it's not sealed onto me as a self. This video thing that I'm doing is a 2. It's outside of me. So the 2, how does it relate to the 3? Well, the 2 is who I want to communicate with, right? And so it deals with all the 2. It deals with everything outside of you in your holographic universe. So what that's telling you is that it might be also a good time to learn how to better communicate with everything around you, right? And maybe including people. So it could be a good year to take classes on communication. Kind of a deal. Sharing information, being kinder, like under the 3. So you're going to be sharing with the outside, which is a good thing, because sometimes if you're going to have a lot of 1s in there, you've got to share with yourself and communicate with yourself. And then we're going to get, so the 0 always kind of represents the component of the infinite, I guess. That's why they say with like 9/11, 911, you would call somebody outside of yourself in this reality for help, right? 911 was set up as a magical number for the bad guys. So, it's basically in everybody's mind too, which is not it's a pretty stealth magical trick, right? But I guess it's the 10. So the 911, right? Getting to the 11 is bypassing the 10, which is the infinite, which is the energy of the infinite. So by them doing 911, it kind of bypasses the infinite and puts you into that savior also programming kind of a thing. But anyway, it's all codes and numbers, and it's all tricks. All programs, applications, all these things are. Magic is just an application, just applying it into the holographic system. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it backfires because there are no rules or laws to support it. So it doesn't work. And the same with manifestation. There's no rules or laws that are already governing in here. You're not going to be able to activate the field in a way to actually assist you with it. And so it's going to backfire, or it's not going to work. Okay, so we've got the infinite involved. We got the 2, which is, the 3. We broke it all down. Then we went through the 2. Now the 0 is the infinite part that's infinite. Then we get to the 1, and the 1 deals with us, or new beginnings, right? And so in this way, I'm just going to use the 3 because this is the way that I thought about it this morning. The 3, how is that activating? How is it being activated through the 1? 2019, 1-9, right? Self. And also, how can I communicate better with myself? How do I, create a new beginning? How am I sharing with myself, communicating with myself? Just, there's going to be some internal work too, right? Because the 1 is implied. So, what we talked about, the 2, and all the things that would be, to a business would be outside of yourself, but it also takes us to the 1. And as we're communicating to the 2, everything outside of ourselves, we also have to come back to the 1 and do those things with ourselves. So like they always say, another program in this reality, the healer has to heal themselves. And so reason why psychologists become psychologists is because they're really effed up themselves, and they're trying to figure out how to fix their effed up self, right? And since they're mental, they go towards the psychology field, right? So that's a program in this reality. So that 1 after the 2 and the infinite would be saying, yes, you're going to have to do the work too, right? Until we get to a 202 something, then it'll all be about how we're working with everything outside of ourselves, but we still are working on, think about, 19, from the 1900s on, we've had a major aspect of the front part of that number of having to, before, towards the 1900s, it started going back internal, right? Because the work came back to us because the 1 was there, right? Self. And we can see through that whole period, it's all about, especially in the United States, the self, the money, the prestige, the taking of the money, the me. Then we moved into the 2000s, and that's everything outside, right? So the whole operation of the me doesn't work anymore. And now as a collective, the 2 is like saying, we're waking up, and we're starting to notice that everything outside of us is really effed up. And, how are we going to, where are we at with that? But then we still have in the 2000s this component of the 1 at the backside while we're finishing the teens that is bringing, the backside of the work back to us. So we're healing it, we're recognizing it, we're seeing how we're dealing with the outside world, we're waking up. We want to figure out how we can work better with it, how we can help it to heal or fix or make a better world, right? Diet, nutrition is very important. That would be outside of yourself, right? But it comes back to the 1, right? Why do I care about how my food is grown? Well, because, at the late part of the teens here, the 1 comes up because it relates to me and my health. It relates to me and my environment. So we're still processing some 1. So this is like the last year, 2019 is the last year in the 1s. So you want to make sure that whatever you need to recognize or deal with or activate in yourself from the discovery of the 2 being on the front since the 2000s, this is the year to do it. Because then you have the 9, which is the closure. It's putting the last pieces of the puzzle together. And because it's after the 1, it's saying you personally, as the self, need to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? You need to figure it out. It's also about closing the doors. So I had this really crazy thing with a 9, right? So I have this bank account. So I have this weird thing that if I go get a new bank account or if I go get other numbers that I can choose what those numbers are. You go into the bank and they throw up, the bank checkbooks, and they'll say, choose from one of these checkbooks you want, or they used to do that. So I would look through them and I would count the personal bank number. It had to be a different number because this bank account that I had with Wells Fargo, so by not understanding 9 as part of a law here, I just let them give me a checkbook and the personal banking number for just my personal account, not all the other account numbers attached to it, ended up being a 9. And I didn't even really know, this was like 20 years ago when I really became conscious of this whole programming thing with numbers. So what happened with that darn bank account is that it kept trying to close itself. I'm serious. Like, it just constantly, there was always problems with it. I was always having to go down to the bank, and they'd even be like, oh, wow, we don't even really understand this. And, have to fight them on fees and all kinds of crazy stuff. The deposits wouldn't show up in that account, even though I walked in with the deposit of cash and it said that it was deposited in there. And then, then it wasn't deposited in there, and then they couldn't find it. One time, because I'm activating that 9. So on top of being at like one of the worst banks of all time for theft, lies, and thievery, I had this bank account that was a 9 that was trying to close itself all the time. It was at the end of the cycle, and it just wanted to close itself all the time, and it did whatever is possible. And because I activated even more chaotic energy, because of unconsciousness about how the role of numbers and the laws that govern them, especially through numerology, and, alphabet, all that kind of stuff. Like, I was activating a worse banking experience on top of being at a horrid bank. I call it the Bank of Diablo. So what happened was, which was the crux where the bank account finally got itself closed, is my deposit happened to be in an ATM machine that was separate from the building, the old ones. And so I had put like $2,500 in checks that week or something like that into that deposit. It was maybe like a couple of weeks of checks or something. Anyway, I put it into that machine, drove through in the third lane away from the building, put my thing in. And it, I looked the next day and it had registered that it went in. And then all of a sudden I started getting all these things happening with my bank account. And I had stuff bouncing all over the place and just all kinds of stuff. And then I went back and looked, and that the deposit was gone. So I had to go down to the bank and try to talk to them about what happened. And nobody would tell me the truth, right? Nobody would, it was like, they were all being silenced. They wouldn't tell me what was going on. And, oh yeah, we've got somebody on it and we're going to figure it out. And, oh yeah, we'll take a copy of your deposit slip and, blah, 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 blah. Well, like 2 weeks into this, I ended up finally trying to get a hold of somebody like way high up in Wells Fargo. And I ended up, I don't know, getting somebody, right? I don't know if it was a bank. I think it was like a bank manager or something. Oh, you know what? I was talking to my personal banker is what it was. Because I had like 3 accounts at Wells Fargo. So one of the things he said to me was, well, that the branch, the ATM at that machine at that branch, somebody ran over with a car and then they used a crowbar on it and they stole all the envelope deposits. So we suspect that your deposit was one of those deposits. He said, but the problem is that a separate company owns those deposit machines. They're not owned by Wells Fargo. So we pay another company to manage, cash and our deposits and all that other stuff until they're brought inside. So it was never brought inside for the official registration of it, or addition to your account. So we have no idea really, and we are not really responsible. Okay, well, it gets worse. So like a week after that, I have a really good client of mine who was, a high up attorney, let's just say in the, underneath the attorney general in the state of Nevada. And she calls me up and asks me about the check that they wrote, her and her husband, for me, crunching him out. And that the check had been laundered. I was like, oh my God. So their check, she's like a deputy, like attorney general person, right? Dealing in a specific area at the highest level of law. And you don't want to have people like this mad at you or think that you've done something. So she said that somebody washed the check and they put something like $5,000 into the thing, and it actually cashed their account. And so she was trying to get all the information. Obviously, they were going to get their money back in their account. And I just told her, I said, look, I know this is going to sound like really far out there, but I just found out that the branch, the ATM machine got stolen basically, and all the stuff that was stolen in it, and your checks were in my ATM deposit envelope. So that account finally had to be closed because it was so damaged by then. And I had to eat that $2,500, and I had to eat all of another, I think it was like $500 in fees. Yeah. It was a bad situation. So after that, I sat down one time and I looked at the numbers on it and I said, well, no wonder I'm dealing with an evil entity, and my personal part of the bank account is the number 9 it's just trying to close itself, right? All the pieces have come together, the puzzles come together, and it's closing itself. So on top of it, my bank account was attracting these ways of it could be closed down to it, right? So I just happened to be my deposit just happened to be in the ATM. And so you think about like how, somebody was attracted to stealing because they needed it for whatever reason, but why did they choose to break into that particular one? And why at that particular time was my deposit in there? So I'm very careful about the number 9, because 9 can be really throw you into a looping cycle with a certain thing, an event or something outside of you. So, and that's what it's saying, so we want to make sure that, we're dealing with that 9 as we're putting our personal pieces together. So, this may also be a really good year to like change your diet, to help yourself, because that 9's closer to it, or find out what the components in your health that you're lacking or missing, so that you can actually, close the door on the past of old health issues. So, close the door on things that you want to close the door on. And so you have a whole year to figure that out. And if you have stuff that keeps coming back and back and back, it's because it's something that needs to be closed. It's trying to be closed for you, but you're not doing the work in order to help it assist it to close, right? So people could have really incredible personal healing happen this year because of the 1 and the 9, and the 9 trying to close the past, trying to close the door and assist with the last pieces of the puzzle. But the thing is, unless you actually actively do it and work with it, it's going to create more chaos and frustration and anger and, a lot of other things other than something positive. So in the 2D, you have the positive or the negative. So same thing with this whole numerology implant program or whatever. 9 can either play negative or it can play a positive. It just really depends on what side you want to be in. But the best place is to be in the middle of the seesaw, so it's balanced between bad and good, so that you can manage and see everything that's going on around that 9, be an observer and recognize where you need to take self steps towards helping 9 to finish the past, or at least like the last 9-year cycle, right? So, okay, that's what I've got for you. I was thinking about, and a lot of this 9 cycle, yeah, you think about, there's a lot of stuff with this 9 cycle that could go back to the 1900s, 1900, kind of where a lot of this one before the 9 started, playing out. And then we moved into the 2, and the 19. So it's probably like, it's probably going to be a pretty epic year because, about the turn of the century, that's when everything really started going to hell. Especially with the environment and health and food and all that stuff. War and just heinous stuff really started to get jiggy about then. So the next year is going to be the time to really, clear it with that in your genetics, clear it within yourself, clear it within your mind, and you may have to go back through generations, right? How many generations do you have in your family that, were there at the 1900s and forward? Because they're, carrying some stuff. You're carrying some of their stuff. In the teachings that I have and the work that I do energetically, you carry, 7 generations of your father on one side and 7 generations of your mother on the other side in your gut. And it's interesting when I start working on people's guts, all kinds of crazy stuff starts to happen. So you may still have, some work to connect up to finish your 9, to close the door, not only for yourself, but for the stuff you've been carrying for other people, because it's just embedded in you hereditarily. And it can be mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. So anyway, a really good physical way to break that stuff up is you don't want your ribs involved, but if you feel up underneath your ribs where the edge of your ribs end right in the middle, and you get like a soft ball, not a soft ball throwing ball, but a soft rubber ball, you can even take some of the air out of it, put it on the bed, and then lay on it in that area in your gut. And it's going to be really intense at first because there's a lot of stuff trapped in there. But lay on it every day and try to breathe until it gets easier and easier and that area can open up and expand. And, you can just lay on it as long as you can till you get to where you can have like a nice little comfortable 20-minute nap on it. And it will really sort out like all kinds of problems, mid-back problems, neck problems, because that's your will also in that area, which is the 3rd chakra. I call it the 3rd chakra battle, because it's really where the battle zone in us is physically. It doesn't matter if it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. It's stuck in that area, and it all accumulates and collects in that area, especially post-traumatic stress disorder. So you can help yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, by laying on a ball. And, you can always pump the ball up more, but always try, make sure you get the right size, soft, mushy ball. You can get cheap, bouncy balls at Walmart for like $1, I think. And start laying on the ball. That might be a really great thing for 2019 to help sort out past stuff and stuff that you may not know about that's, held there in your gut. So get a ball that's appropriate where you can feel it. But like I said, you don't want it on the ribs. You don't want it on the bone and the cartilage there because you don't want to, disturb your, I was trying to think. You don't want to disturb your, I can't even, my brain just went blank. Any of the bones, the rib cage. So you need to put the ball below that and then just lay on it. And if you lay on the bed, it'll absorb some of the stress and the tension that's going in your gut, and it'll be less hurtful. And then, when you get better and better, you could put a nice solid, mushy ball on the floor and just lay on it in your gut, as you break that stuff open. And then you start to breathe again. You start to interact with the outside world again. You let go of some of that physical post-traumatic stress disorder that's in your body. It's really helpful for your adrenals and kidneys as well. And don't forget to breathe deep. Okay, so that is your video for 2019. And just some ideas around, if you're not sure what the next year is going to bring, kind of gives you some ideas, some speculations, speculative, processes that you might be able to use in order to make it a good year. Okay, over and out. Bridget Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. And, yep, good luck. 2019.